My morning started unusually with a message from my wife, Linda. She texted to say she'd be staying a few extra days at the Seattle Film Festival. More time to catch up on work, I thought, little knowing how drastically this delay would alter our lives. Linda had always been passionate about films. She worked as an assistant director for a small production company and lived for the chance to mingle with industry professionals. The Seattle Film Festival was a highlight of her year, a place where she could lose herself in the art she loved. I trusted her completely, never questioning her late nights or frequent trips. A couple of days after she left, I was rummaging through the kitchen looking for my keys when I noticed Linda's laptop on the table. It was open, the screen glowing softly in the early morning light. I hesitated. I never liked to invade her privacy, but something urged me to take a look. On the screen was a chat with someone named Jackson. Their conversation was filled with emojis, jokes, and what appeared to be inside references. It seemed innocent enough at first, but the more I read, the more uneasy I felt. Who was this Jackson, and why was Linda so comfortable with him? I tried to brush it off, telling myself it was probably work-related, but the seed of doubt had been planted. I decided to call my best friend Mark to get his take on it. "Don't jump to conclusions," Mark advised. "Wait until she gets back and talk to her. It might be nothing." I agreed, albeit reluctantly. The next day, unable to shake my growing unease, I checked Linda's social media accounts. She had posted numerous photos from the festival, and in almost every one, there was a tall man with a thick beard standing close to her. They looked comfortable, too comfortable. When Linda returned home a week later, she was full of stories about the festival, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She seemed so genuinely happy that I began to doubt my suspicions. Maybe I was overreacting. But that night, as we lay in bed, I couldn't help but notice how she clutched her phone tightly, whispering into it when she thought I was asleep. The next day I installed a tracking app on her phone. It was a low move, I knew, but I needed to know the truth. A few days later, the app sent me a notification. Linda had arranged to meet Jackson at a hotel. My heart pounded as I read their messages. They were planning a romantic rendezvous. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I drove to the hotel and parked across the street, watching as they entered, laughing and holding hands. I felt a mix of rage and sorrow as I realized my worst fears were true. I entered the hotel, approached the front desk, and learned their room number. My heart raced as I rode the elevator to their floor. I knocked on the door, my knuckles white with tension. Jackson opened the door, his face paling when he saw me. Linda appeared behind him, her eyes wide with fear. I felt a surge of emotions, anger, betrayal, heartbreak. I made them both sit down and demanded an explanation. Linda cried. Jackson stammered, but their excuses meant nothing to me. Our life, our love, was shattered. That night I left the hotel, my mind a storm of thoughts. I spent sleepless nights considering our future. Finally, I decided I deserved honesty and respect. I met with Linda the next day and told her we needed to separate. It was a hard decision, but I knew it was right. Linda moved in with her parents, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my life. Months passed. I started new hobbies and learned to value myself. Linda's betrayal was a painful lesson, but it taught me to build my life on honesty and trust. As I navigated this new chapter, I realized the thunderbolt that struck my life had cleared the way for something new and hopefully better. The days following our separation were a blur of emotions. I felt lost, adrift in a sea of uncertainty. Every corner of our house held memories of Linda, echoes of a life that now seemed like a distant dream. I spent hours staring at the walls, trying to make sense of the whirlwind that had upended my world. Friends and family reached out, offering support and advice. Mark, in particular, was a constant presence. He took me out for drinks, trying to distract me from my thoughts, but the pain lingered like a shadow I couldn't shake. I appreciated his efforts, even if they didn't always succeed in lifting my spirits. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my phone, pictures of vacations, birthdays, and quiet moments at home. Linda's smile was in every one of them. I wondered how it had come to this. Was there something I had missed? Some sign that she was unhappy? I decided to reach out to a therapist. Talking to someone unbiased might help me process everything. My first session was awkward. I wasn't used to sharing my deepest thoughts with a stranger. But as the weeks passed, I began to open up, and it felt like a weight was being lifted off my shoulders. The therapist, Dr. Collins, helped me see that Linda's actions were not a reflection of my worth. She made me understand that sometimes people change in ways that are beyond our control. It wasn't easy to accept, but it was a start. Work became my refuge. I threw myself into my projects, often staying late at the office to avoid returning to an empty home. My colleagues noticed the change, and while they offered their sympathies, I preferred to keep things professional. I didn't want their pity. I wanted to prove that I could move forward. One evening, as I was cleaning up after dinner, I found Linda's favorite mug in the back of the cupboard. I held it for a moment, memories flooding back. Then, with a deep breath, I set it aside, deciding it was time to start making the house my own again. I redecorated the living room, repainted the walls, and bought new furniture. It was a small step, but it felt empowering. Each change I made was a declaration of my independence, a way to reclaim my space and my life. My therapist suggested I try new activities to fill my time and meet new people. I joined a local hiking group and signed up for cooking classes. At first, it felt strange to step out of my comfort zone, but soon I found that these activities brought me a sense of joy and accomplishment. In the hiking group, I met people who shared my love for the outdoors. The long walks through the woods became a time for reflection and healing. I found solace in the rhythm of my footsteps and the beauty of nature around me. Cooking classes, on the other hand, were a revelation. I discovered a passion for creating delicious meals, something I had never taken the time to explore before. The process of chopping vegetables, mixing ingredients, and tasting the results was therapeutic, a reminder that life still had flavors worth savoring. Months passed, and gradually the raw pain of Linda's betrayal began to dull. I found myself thinking about her less often, the memories no longer a constant ache but a distant hum. I knew I was healing, building a new life on the ashes of the old one. One day, as I was hiking with the group, a woman named Sarah struck up a conversation with me. She was kind and had a warm, genuine smile. We talked about our favorite trails and the best places to see the sunset. It was the first time in a long while that I felt a spark of genuine interest in someone. We started spending more time together, meeting for coffee and exploring new hiking paths. Sarah's presence was a breath of fresh air, a reminder that it was possible to find happiness again. I wasn't sure where things would lead, but for the first time in months, I felt hopeful about the future. As I stood on a cliffside with Sarah, watching the sun dip below the horizon, I realized that my life was far from over. The storm of betrayal had passed, and in its wake, I found a new beginning. It wasn't the life I had planned, but it was a life that I was learning to cherish, one step at a time. The process of rebuilding my life was slow and often challenging, but every day brought new opportunities for growth and healing. Sarah and I continued to see each other regularly, and our bond deepened over time. Her presence was a reminder that life could still be beautiful, even after the darkest of times. One crisp autumn morning, Sarah and I decided to take a road trip to the coast. The drive was filled with easy conversation and laughter, the kind that comes naturally when you're with someone who understands you. We arrived at a small beach town and spent the day exploring its charming streets and scenic views. As we walked along the shoreline, the waves gently lapping at our feet, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known in months. Sarah took my hand and we watched the sunset over the ocean, the sky painted in hues of pink and orange. It was a moment of pure tranquility, a reminder that joy could be found in the simplest of things. That evening, over dinner at a cozy seaside restaurant, Sarah and I talked about our pasts, our dreams, and our fears. She shared stories of her own heartbreaks and triumphs, and I opened up about my journey since Linda's betrayal. There was no judgment, only understanding and empathy. It was at that moment that I realized how much I had grown, how far I had come from the man who had been shattered by infidelity. Back home, my relationship with Sarah continued to flourish. We spent weekends hiking, cooking, and discovering new hobbies together. One rainy afternoon, we decided to try pottery. The studio was filled with the soothing hum of spinning wheels and the earthy scent of clay. We laughed at our initial attempts, but soon we found a rhythm, creating pieces that were uniquely ours. Work also took on a new meaning. With a clearer mind and a renewed sense of purpose, I found myself more engaged and productive. My colleagues noticed the change, and my boss even commended me on my improved performance. It felt good to be recognized for my efforts, and it boosted my confidence. One day, while cleaning out an old drawer, I came across a forgotten manuscript of a novel I had started writing years ago. Inspired by the changes in my life, I decided to pick it up again. Writing became a cathartic outlet, a way to process my emotions and tell a story that had been waiting to be told. Sarah encouraged me every step of the way, reading my drafts and offering thoughtful feedback. Her belief in me was unwavering, and it fueled my determination to see the project through. Late nights were spent hunched over my laptop, words flowing as I poured my heart into the pages. As the months passed, I felt a sense of fulfillment I hadn't known in years. My life was no longer defined by Linda's betrayal, but by the choices I made and the person I was becoming. The pain of the past was still there, but it no longer held me captive. Instead, it served as a reminder of my resilience and capacity for growth. One sunny afternoon, Sarah and I hosted a small gathering at my home. Friends and family filled the rooms, their laughter and conversations creating a warm, vibrant atmosphere. Mark was there, his familiar grin reassuring me that I was surrounded by people who cared. During the party, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought me here. The heartbreak, the struggle, and the small victories along the way had all shaped me into the person I am now. I realized that, despite the pain and the challenges, I had emerged stronger and more self-aware. As the evening progressed, I stepped out onto the patio to catch my breath. The air was cool and crisp, carrying the scent of blooming flowers. I felt a presence beside me and turned to see Sarah, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the patio lights. "You've come a long way," she said softly, her hand gently squeezing mine. I nodded, feeling a lump in my throat. "I couldn't have done it without you, Sarah. You've been my rock through all of this." She smiled a warm and genuine smile that melted away the remnants of my doubts. "And you've been mine. We've helped each other grow." In that moment, I understood that healing was not a solitary journey. It was the support of friends, the love of someone who believed in me, and the strength I found within myself that had brought me to this place. I was no longer defined by the past, but by the choices I made in the present. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. My novel was nearing completion, and the excitement of finishing it fueled my creativity. I also continued to explore new hobbies with Sarah, each one bringing us closer together. We took up photography, capturing moments of beauty in our everyday lives. The world seemed richer and more vibrant through the lens of a camera. One evening, as we reviewed our photos, Sarah looked at me with a serious expression. "Have you thought about what you want to do with your novel once it's finished?" The question caught me off guard. I had been so focused on writing that I hadn't considered the next steps. "I'm not sure. Maybe try to get it published?" "I think you should. It's a beautiful story, and I believe others would benefit from reading it," she said, her eyes full of encouragement. Her words stayed with me, and after some research, I decided to submit my manuscript to a few publishers. The waiting was nerve-wracking, but I reminded myself that the journey was just as important as the destination. In the meantime, Sarah and I planned another trip, this time to the mountains. We rented a cozy cabin and spent our days hiking and our nights by the fireplace, talking about everything and nothing. It was in those quiet moments that I realized just how much I had come to love her. On our last night in the cabin, I decided to take a leap of faith. As we sat by the fire, I turned to Sarah and took her hands in mine. "I love you, Sarah. I don't know what the future holds, but I know I want you in it." Her eyes welled up with tears and she smiled. "I love you too. And whatever comes our way, we'll face it together." That night, I felt a sense of peace and contentment that I hadn't felt in a long time. I knew that life would continue to present challenges, but I also knew that I had the strength and the support to face them. A few weeks later, I received an email from a publisher expressing interest in my novel. It felt surreal, a dream come true. With Sarah by my side, I signed the contract and began the process of bringing my story to the world. As I stood on the precipice of this new chapter, I looked back at the journey that had brought me here. The heartbreak and betrayal had been painful, but they had also led me to discover my own resilience and the possibility of new beginnings. I had found love, joy, and a renewed sense of purpose. My story was no longer defined by the past, but by the promise of the future. As I embraced this new chapter, I knew that whatever came next, I was ready to face it with an open heart and unwavering determination. The process of preparing my novel for publication was a whirlwind of edits, meetings, and anticipation. Sarah stood by me through it all, her unwavering support a constant source of strength. The day I held the first printed copy in my hands, I felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment and gratitude. To celebrate, Sarah and I hosted a small gathering at my house, inviting friends and family who had been part of my journey. The atmosphere was filled with joy and congratulations, but it was the quiet moments of reflection that truly resonated with me. I looked around at the faces of those who had supported me, realizing how fortunate I was to have such a strong network. Mark clapped me on the back and handed me a glass of champagne. "To new beginnings and well-deserved success," he toasted. The clinking of glasses echoed in the room, a sound that symbolized not just a milestone in my career, but the start of a new chapter in my life. As the party wound down and guests started to leave, Sarah and I found a moment of quiet in the backyard. The night was clear, stars twinkling above us. She leaned her head on my shoulder, and we sat in comfortable silence, savoring the serenity of the moment. "What's next for you?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath, thinking about the possibilities that lay ahead. I want to keep writing. There are so many stories I still want to tell, and I want to continue building our life together. I feel like we're just getting started. Sarah smiled and squeezed my hand. I feel the same way. Whatever comes next, we'll face it together. With the publication of my novel, new opportunities began to arise. Invitations to book signings, interviews, and literary events started to pour in. It was exciting, but also overwhelming. Sarah's presence was a grounding force, reminding me to stay true to myself amidst the whirlwind of newfound attention. One evening after a particularly successful book signing, we decided to take a spontaneous trip to a nearby city. The drive was filled with laughter and music, the open road stretching out before us as a symbol of the endless possibilities in our future. We explored the city's vibrant neighborhoods, sampling local cuisine and visiting art galleries. It was a perfect escape, a reminder of the joy found in simple adventures. As we strolled through a bustling market, hand in hand, I felt a profound sense of contentment. During our trip, I received an email from a film producer interested in adapting my novel into a movie. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. I discussed it with Sarah, who encouraged me to pursue the opportunity. "Your story has already touched so many people," she said. "Imagine how many more it could reach on the big screen." With her encouragement, I agreed to meet with the producer. The discussions were lengthy and detailed, but ultimately we reached an agreement. The prospect of seeing my story come to life in a new medium was exhilarating. Back home, life continued to evolve in wonderful ways. Sarah and I moved in together, merging our lives and creating a home filled with love and creativity. We painted the walls with colors that reflected our personalities, filled the shelves with books and art, and cultivated a garden in the backyard where we spent peaceful afternoons. Our relationship deepened and built on a foundation of trust, respect, and mutual support. We celebrated each other's successes and comforted each other through challenges. It was a partnership that brought out the best in both of us, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. As the film adaptation of my novel began production, I was invited to visit the set. Seeing the characters and scenes I had created come to life was a surreal and emotional experience. The director and cast were passionate about the project, and their enthusiasm was contagious. One day on set, watching a particularly poignant scene being filmed, I felt a wave of gratitude. The journey from heartbreak to healing had been long and arduous, but it had led me to this incredible moment. It reminded me that even the darkest times can give way to new beginnings and unexpected joys. When the film premiered, Sarah and I attended the red carpet event together. It was a glamorous evening, filled with flashing cameras and congratulatory speeches. As we watched the film unfold on the big screen, I squeezed Sarah's hand, overwhelmed with emotion. My story, once a source of pain and struggle, had transformed into a testament to resilience and hope. The journey was far from over, but I faced the future with a renewed sense of purpose and optimism. With Sarah by my side, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would navigate them together. The dawn of a new chapter had arrived, and I was ready to embrace it with an open heart and unwavering determination. The film adaptation of my novel brought a whirlwind of new experiences and opportunities. I traveled to various film festivals, gave interviews, and connected with readers and viewers who resonated with my story. Each encounter was a reminder of the power of storytelling and the impact it could have on people's lives. Amidst the excitement, Sarah and I continued to nurture our relationship. We had fallen into a comfortable routine, balancing our individual passions with our shared love for adventure. One sunny afternoon, we decided to take a weekend trip to a cabin in the mountains. It was a chance to disconnect from the busyness of our lives and reconnect with each other. The drive to the cabin was filled with easy conversation and laughter. We arrived just as the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the landscape. The cabin was cozy and inviting, nestled among towering pine trees, with a breathtaking view of the valley below. That evening, we sat by the fireplace, sipping hot cocoa and talking about our dreams for the future. Sarah mentioned her desire to open her own art studio, a place where she could create and teach others. I encouraged her to pursue it, knowing how much joy it would bring her. "You've always been my biggest supporter," she said, her eyes shining with gratitude. "And you've been mine," I replied, feeling a deep sense of connection. "We make a pretty good team." The next morning, we hiked to a nearby lookout point. The trail was challenging but rewarding, each step bringing us closer to a panoramic view that took our breath away. Standing there, hand in hand, we felt on top of the world, both literally and figuratively. As we descended, I realized how much I cherished these moments of simplicity and togetherness. Life had become a beautiful tapestry of shared experiences, each one adding depth and color to our relationship. Back in the city, Sarah took steps toward realizing her dream. She found a charming space in a bustling neighborhood and began the process of transforming it into her art studio. Watching her pour her heart and soul into the project was inspiring. Her passion was contagious, and I offered my help whenever I could, from painting walls to assembling furniture. Meanwhile, the success of the film adaptation opened doors for me in the literary world. I was invited to speak at conferences, participate in panel discussions, and even mentor aspiring writers. It was fulfilling work, and I relished the opportunity to share my journey and insights with others. One evening, after an enriching book signing event, I returned home to find Sarah waiting for me with a mischievous smile. She led me to the backyard where she had set up a cozy dinner under the stars. Fairy lights twinkled above us, and a delicious meal was laid out on the table. "What's the occasion?" I asked, curious. She took my hand and led me to a seat. "I wanted to celebrate you, your hard work, your success, and the amazing person you are." Her words touched me deeply, and as we enjoyed our meal, I realized how much we had grown together. We had faced challenges, embraced change, and supported each other's dreams. Our love had only deepened over time, and I couldn't imagine my life without her. As the evening drew to a close, Sarah handed me a small, beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a handmade journal, its pages blank and waiting to be filled. "For your next story," she said softly. Tears welled up in my eyes as I hugged her tightly. "Thank you, Sarah, for everything." The journal became my constant companion, a place to capture new ideas and reflections. Inspired by my journey and the people who had touched my life, I began to outline a new novel. This story would be about resilience, love, and the power of second chances. Months passed, and Sarah's art studio flourished. She held workshops, hosted exhibitions, and created stunning pieces that captured the essence of her creativity. Her happiness was contagious, and it filled our home with an uplifting energy. One evening, as we were winding down from a busy day, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about the future, about what comes next for us?" I smiled, taking her hand in mine. "All the time. I see a future where we continue to support each other, to grow and evolve together. I see a home filled with love and laughter, with space for our dreams to thrive." She leaned in and kissed me gently. "That sounds perfect." And so, as we embraced the future, I knew that whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead, we would face them together. Our journey was far from over, and I was excited to see where it would lead. With Sarah by my side, I felt ready to embrace whatever came next, knowing that our love and partnership would guide us through. The dawn of a new chapter was upon us, filled with endless possibilities and the promise of a life well lived. As I opened my journal to begin writing the next story, I felt a deep sense of gratitude and anticipation for all that was yet to come. As the years passed, Sarah and I continued to build our lives together, each day bringing new adventures and deeper connections. Our careers flourished, our love grew stronger, and our home became a sanctuary of creativity and warmth. One crisp spring morning, as we sat on the porch sipping coffee, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking," she began, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "What if we took a sabbatical and traveled the world? There are so many places I've always wanted to see, and I think it could be an incredible experience for both of us." The idea intrigued me. The notion of exploring new cultures, landscapes, and experiences was both thrilling and a bit daunting. "Where would we start?" I asked, feeling a sense of adventure bubbling up inside me. "We could begin in Europe," Sarah suggested. "Visit the art museums in Paris, hike the Swiss Alps, and explore the historic streets of Rome. Then maybe head to Asia, South America. The possibilities are endless." We spent the next few weeks planning our journey, researching destinations, and mapping out our route. It was exhilarating to dream about the adventures ahead, and we felt like we were embarking on a grand quest. Before we left, we held a farewell party at our home, inviting friends and family to share in our excitement. Mark, ever the supportive friend, toasted to our journey. "To new horizons and unforgettable experiences, may you find joy and inspiration in every corner of the world." Our first stop was Paris, a city that captured our hearts immediately. We wandered through the Louvre, stood in awe of the Eiffel Tower, and savored croissants at quaint cafes. Sarah was in her element, sketching scenes from the bustling streets and serene parks. Her eyes lit up with inspiration, and it was a joy to see her so immersed in her art. From Paris, we traveled to the Swiss Alps, where we hiked through breathtaking landscapes and stayed in charming mountain villages. The fresh air and stunning views rejuvenated our spirits, and we found a deep sense of peace in the simplicity of nature. As we continued our journey, each destination brought new discoveries and challenges. In Rome, we marveled at ancient ruins and indulged in delicious Italian cuisine. In Tokyo, we experienced the vibrant energy of the city and the serene beauty of its temples. In the Amazon rainforest, we embarked on a thrilling adventure, navigating rivers and encountering wildlife in their natural habitats. Every place we visited left a lasting impression, adding to the rich tapestry of our shared experiences. Throughout our travels, I continued to write. The journal Sarah had given me became a repository of our adventures, filled with stories, sketches, and reflections. My writing evolved, infused with the diversity of the cultures and landscapes we encountered. Sarah's art also flourished, her sketchbook brimming with vibrant depictions of the places and people we met. One particularly memorable stop was in a small village in southern Spain. We stayed in a rustic cottage surrounded by olive groves and rolling hills. The village was known for its traditional pottery, and we spent our days learning from local artisans. The slower pace of life was a welcome respite, and we reveled in the simple pleasures of good food, great company, and creative endeavors. One evening, as we sat on the terrace watching the sunset, Sarah turned to me with a contented smile. "This has been everything I hoped for and more. I'm so grateful we took this leap together." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. "Me too. It's been an incredible journey, and I feel like we've both grown so much. I can't wait to see where the rest of our travels take us." After several months on the road, we decided it was time to return home. We had seen and experienced so much, and we were ready to bring the inspiration we had gathered back to our everyday lives. The journey has changed us in profound ways, deepening our connection and broadening our horizons. Back home, we settled into a new rhythm. Sarah opened her own art gallery, showcasing the work she had created during our travels. The opening night was a resounding success, with friends, family, and art enthusiasts gathering to celebrate her talent. Her pieces, vibrant and full of life, were a testament to the beauty we had encountered around the world. I resumed my writing, inspired by the journey and eager to share our stories. My next novel, a blend of travel memoir and fiction, was taking shape, and I poured my heart into it. The process was deeply rewarding, and I found myself lost in the world of words, reliving our adventures through my characters. One day, as we were walking through our neighborhood park, Sarah stopped and turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking about something," she said. "What if we hosted a creative retreat, a place where artists and writers can come together, find inspiration, and create? We have so much space in our home and garden, and I think it could be amazing." The idea resonated with me immediately. "I love it. It would be a wonderful way to share what we've learned and experienced. Let's do it." We spent the next few months planning the retreat, reaching out to our network of artists and writers, and transforming our home into a welcoming space for creativity. The retreat quickly gained popularity, and soon we were hosting workshops, seminars, and creative gatherings. The first retreat was a resounding success. Artists and writers from all over came to share their work, exchange ideas, and find new inspiration. The energy was electric, and it was incredibly fulfilling to see our home filled with such creativity and passion. As we stood together, watching the sunset over our garden after the final day of the retreat, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Our journey had brought us to this moment, and I knew that whatever the future held, we would face it together, with love and creativity guiding us. Our story was one of resilience, growth, and endless possibilities. We had turned heartbreak into a beautiful journey, discovering new horizons and embracing the joy of each new day. And as we looked toward the future, we knew that our greatest adventures were still to come. The creative retreat became a cornerstone of our lives, a beacon for artists and writers seeking inspiration and connection. The success of the retreat brought a new sense of purpose and fulfillment to our home, and Sarah and I found ourselves immersed in a community of like-minded individuals who shared our passion for creativity. One evening, after a particularly invigorating day of workshops, Sarah and I sat on the porch, reflecting on the journey that had brought us here. The moonlight cast a gentle glow over the garden, and the sounds of laughter and conversation from the retreat participants filled the air. "This feels like a dream," Sarah said softly, her hand resting on mine. "I never imagined we could create something so beautiful together." I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of contentment. It's been an incredible journey, and I have a feeling there's still so much more to come. As the retreats continued to thrive, Sarah and I began to explore new ways to expand our creative horizons. We started hosting themed retreats, focusing on different aspects of art and writing, from nature-inspired workshops to deep-dive writing intensives. Each retreat brought new faces, new stories, and new inspiration. One day, as we were planning the next retreat, Sarah came to me with an idea that would take us in an entirely new direction. "What if we created a collaborative project with the artists and writers who come here?" she suggested. "A book or a collection of works that showcases the incredible talent and creativity we've seen." The idea was exhilarating. "That sounds amazing. It could be a way to share our journey and the journey of everyone who's been part of this with the world." We set to work immediately, reaching out to past retreat participants and inviting them to contribute to the project. The response was overwhelming, and soon we had a wealth of stories, poems, paintings, and photographs that captured the essence of our creative community. The process of compiling and editing the collection was a labor of love. Sarah and I spent countless hours poring over submissions, curating the pieces, and working with contributors to refine their work. The result was a beautiful anthology titled Uncharted Territories, a testament to the transformative power of creativity and community. The launch of the anthology was a joyous occasion. We hosted a special retreat to celebrate, inviting contributors and supporters to join us for a weekend of readings, art exhibits, and performances. The energy was electric, and as we stood before our friends and community, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride and gratitude. During the closing ceremony, Sarah and I took the stage to thank everyone for their contributions and support. "This anthology is more than just a collection of works," Sarah said, her voice filled with emotion. "It's a celebration of the journeys we've all taken, the challenges we've overcome, and the beauty we've discovered along the way." As the audience applauded, I looked out at the sea of faces, each one a reminder of the incredible journey we had undertaken. It was a moment of profound connection, a testament to the power of creativity and the strength of community. In the months that followed, the success of Uncharted Territories opened new doors for us. We were invited to speak at conferences and festivals, sharing our story and the stories of the artists and writers who had contributed to the anthology. Our home became a hub of creative energy, drawing in even more artists and writers eager to be part of our growing community. One evening, after a particularly inspiring talk at a literary festival, Sarah and I sat in a cozy cafe, sipping coffee and reflecting on the journey so far. "It's incredible to think about how far we've come," I mused, gazing out at the bustling streets of the city. Sarah nodded, her eyes sparkling with excitement. "And there's still so much we can do. I've been thinking about expanding our retreats to include more immersive experiences, like residencies where artists can stay for longer periods and really dive deep into their work." The idea resonated with me immediately. "That sounds perfect. We have the space, and I think it could be a transformative experience for those who come." With renewed enthusiasm, we began planning the artist residency program. We reached out to our network, inviting applications from artists and writers who were seeking a longer-term creative retreat. The response was incredible, and we soon had a diverse group of talented individuals ready to join us. The residency program brought a new dynamic to our home. Artists and writers stayed with us for weeks or even months, working on their projects and becoming part of our daily lives. The extended time allowed for deeper connections and more profound creative breakthroughs. We hosted regular open studios and readings, where residents could share their work with the community. One of the residents, a young painter named Emily, left a particularly strong impression on us. She arrived with a raw, untapped talent and a deep desire to explore her creative potential. Over the months she stayed with us, we watched her blossom, her work evolving in ways that were both surprising and inspiring. One afternoon, as Sarah and I walked through the garden, we found Emily sitting by the pond, her easel set up and her brush moving with deliberate strokes. The painting she was working on was breathtaking, a vivid portrayal of the landscape that seemed to capture the very essence of the place. "I've learned so much here," Emily said, her eyes never leaving the canvas. "Not just about painting, but about myself and what I want to say with my art." Her words resonated deeply with me, reminding me of the journey Sarah and I had taken to get here. It was moments like these that made all the hard work and challenges worthwhile. As the residency program continued to grow, so did our vision for the future. Sarah and I began to explore new ways to support and nurture the creative community we had built. We established scholarships for emerging artists, created partnerships with local galleries and literary organizations, and even started a small publishing house to help writers bring their work to a wider audience. The impact of our efforts was far-reaching, and we were humbled by the stories of transformation and success that emerged from our community. Artists who had once struggled to find their voice were now thriving, their work being recognized and celebrated around the world. One evening, As we sat by the fireplace, reflecting on all that we had accomplished, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" she asked. I smiled, feeling a deep sense of contentment and anticipation. "All the time, but I think, whatever it is, we'll face it together. We've built something incredible here, and I believe the best is yet to come." Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with determination. "I agree, and I can't wait to see where this journey takes us next." As we embraced the future, we knew that our story was far from over. We had turned heartbreak into a beautiful journey of growth, creativity, and connection. As we looked ahead to new horizons and uncharted territories, we were ready to face whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead, guided by love, creativity, and the unwavering strength of our partnership. The years of building our creative retreat and expanding our horizons had brought Sarah and me closer than ever. Our lives were filled with the joy of creating, supporting others, and continually discovering new possibilities. However, the journey was not without its unexpected twists. One autumn afternoon, as we were preparing for an upcoming residency program, I received a phone call that would change the course of our lives once again. The voice on the other end was familiar, yet unexpected. It was Michael, the film director with whom Sarah had an affair years ago. "Hello, Robert," Michael began, his tone measured and cautious. "I hope this isn't too much of a surprise. I've been following your work with the retreats and the anthology. It's truly impressive. I was wondering if we could meet. There's something important I need to discuss with you." I was taken aback. Michael's voice brought back a flood of memories and emotions, both painful and poignant. But curiosity and a desire for closure prompted me to agree. We arranged to meet at a cafe the following week. When I told Sarah about the call, she was visibly shaken. "Why now? What could he possibly want after all this time?" she asked, her voice tinged with anxiety. "I don't know," I admitted, "but maybe it's something we need to face together." The day of the meeting arrived, and I felt a mix of apprehension and determination. Michael was already seated when I arrived, looking slightly older but still carrying the confident demeanor of a successful filmmaker. "Robert," he greeted me with a tentative smile, "thank you for agreeing to meet." I nodded, taking a seat. "What is it you wanted to discuss, Michael?" He took a deep breath, his expression serious. "First, I want to apologize for everything. I know my actions caused a lot of pain, and I've regretted it deeply. But that's not the main reason I asked to see you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I've been working on a new film, a deeply personal project. It's a story about forgiveness, redemption, and the complexities of human relationships. I believe it could be something special, but I need your help." I was skeptical. "My help? How could I possibly help you with this?" Michael leaned forward, his eyes earnest. "Your writing, your ability to convey raw, authentic emotion, it's exactly what this film needs. I want you to collaborate with me on the script. I know it's a lot to ask, but I believe it could be an incredible project." The proposition was unexpected and challenging. Part of me wanted to reject it outright, to avoid reopening old wounds, but another part of me saw an opportunity for healing and growth, not just for me, but for Sarah as well. "I need to think about it," I said finally, "and I need to talk to Sarah." Michael nodded, understanding. "Of course, take all the time you need." That evening, I shared the conversation with Sarah. She listened intently, her expression shifting from shock to contemplation. "What do you think?" I asked, unsure of my own feelings. "I think it could be a chance for closure," she said slowly, "for both of us. But only if we approach it together, with open hearts and clear boundaries." Her wisdom and strength never ceased to amaze me. "All right," I agreed. "Let's meet with Michael together and see if this is something we can do." We arranged a meeting at our home, inviting Michael to join us for dinner. The atmosphere was initially tense, but as the evening progressed, the conversation flowed more easily. Michael shared his vision for the film, and we discussed our concerns and expectations. By the end of the night, it was clear that this project could be more than just a film. It could be a way to transform our past pain into something meaningful and powerful. We agreed to collaborate, setting clear boundaries and committing to open communication throughout the process. The following months were intense and challenging. Working closely with Michael brought up old emotions and memories, but it also allowed us to confront and process them in a new way. Sarah and I leaned on each other for support, our bond strengthening as we navigated this unexpected journey. The film began to take shape, and the process was both cathartic and inspiring. Michael's vision, combined with my writing, created a story that was raw, honest, and deeply moving. We poured our hearts into the project, determined to create something that resonated with audiences on a profound level. When the film was finally complete, we held a private screening at our retreat, inviting friends, family, and members of our creative community. The response was overwhelmingly positive, with many moved to tears by the story of forgiveness and redemption. As the credits rolled, Michael stood to address the audience. This film would not have been possible without the incredible collaboration and courage of Robert and Sarah. Their willingness to face the past and transform it into something beautiful is truly inspiring. The applause was deafening, and as I looked around at the faces of those who had supported us, I felt a deep sense of closure and gratitude. The journey had come full circle, and we had emerged stronger and more connected than ever. In the weeks that followed, the film received critical acclaim, touching the hearts of audiences around the world. It was a testament to the power of storytelling and the resilience of the human spirit. Through this unexpected encounter and the collaboration that followed, Sarah and I found a new sense of peace and understanding. Our past, once a source of pain, had been transformed into a narrative of hope and healing. As we stood together, watching the sunset over our garden, I realized that our journey was far from over. Life would continue to bring new challenges and opportunities, but I knew that with Sarah by my side, we could face anything. Our story, like the film we had created, was a testament to the strength of love, the power of forgiveness, and the endless possibilities that lay ahead. And as we embraced the future, we were ready to write the next chapter of our lives, together. The success of the film brought a whirlwind of attention to our retreat and our work. Requests for interviews, speaking engagements, and collaborations flooded in, but Sarah and I remained grounded. We knew that our true passion lay in nurturing creativity and supporting our community. One crisp winter morning, as we sat by the fireplace, Sarah brought up an idea that had been on her mind for some time. What if we expanded our retreat center? We could create more spaces for artists and writers to work, maybe even build a performance area for musicians and actors. I looked at her, seeing the spark of excitement in her eyes. That sounds incredible. It would allow us to support even more people and foster a truly diverse creative community. We spent the next few months planning the expansion, consulting with architects, and securing funding. Our vision was to create a space that was both inspiring and functional, with studios, workshops, and performance areas that catered to a wide range of creative disciplines. The construction phase was intense, but with each passing day, our dream began to take shape. The new facilities were modern, yet harmoniously integrated with the natural beauty of the surroundings. It was a place where creativity could flourish, and the energy was palpable. During the grand opening of the expanded retreat center, we hosted a festival to celebrate the occasion. Artists, writers, musicians, and performers from all over gathered to share their work and connect with one another. The air was filled with excitement and the sounds of creativity. As I walked through the bustling crowd, I felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was more than just a retreat center. It was a haven for creative souls, a place where dreams could be realized and new possibilities explored. That evening, Sarah and I stood on the new stage, looking out at the sea of faces. "Thank you all for being here and for believing in our vision," I began, my voice filled with emotion. "This journey has been incredible, and it's all because of the amazing community we've built together." Sarah took the microphone, her eyes shining with tears of joy. "We've seen so many beautiful creations come to life here, and we can't wait to see what the future holds. This place is for all of us, a testament to the power of creativity and the strength of community." The applause was deafening, and as we stepped off the stage, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Our journey had been filled with challenges and triumphs, but it had brought us to this incredible moment. In the weeks that followed, the expanded retreat center became a thriving hub of activity. Artists and writers from all over the world came to immerse themselves in their work, finding inspiration in the supportive environment we had created. Workshops and performances brought fresh energy and new perspectives, enriching the lives of everyone involved. One evening, as we were winding down after a busy day, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "I've been thinking about our next step," she said. "What if we started a foundation to support emerging artists and writers? We could provide grants, mentorship, and opportunities for those who might not otherwise have access to them." The idea resonated deeply with me. That sounds perfect. It would allow us to give back even more and help nurture the next generation of creative talent. We set to work establishing the foundation, reaching out to our network, and securing funding. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and soon we were able to launch the first round of grants and mentorship programs. The foundation became an integral part of our mission, extending our reach and impact even further. As the years passed, our lives continued to be filled with creativity, community, and love. The retreat center and foundation flourished, and we took pride in the countless stories of success and transformation that emerged from our work. One summer afternoon, as we sat in our garden watching the sunset over the horizon, Sarah took my hand. "We've built something truly special here," she said softly, "and I can't wait to see what the future holds." I squeezed her hand, feeling a deep sense of contentment. Neither can I. Whatever comes next, I know we'll face it together. Our journey had been one of unexpected twists and turns, but it had led us to a place of profound fulfillment and joy. We had turned our dreams into reality, and in doing so, had created a legacy that would inspire and support others for years to come. As we embraced the future, we knew that our story was far from over. There were still new horizons to explore, new challenges to face, and new adventures to embark upon. But with love, creativity, and an unwavering partnership, we were ready for whatever lay ahead. And so, with hearts full of hope and eyes fixed on the horizon, we set out on the next chapter of our journey, knowing that the best was yet to come. Years passed, and our retreat center and foundation continued to thrive, becoming beacons of creativity and support for artists and writers around the world. Sarah and I found fulfillment in our work, knowing that we were making a meaningful difference in the lives of others. One autumn day, as the leaves began to turn gold and red, Sarah approached me with a gleam in her eye. "Robert, I have an idea," she said, her voice alive with excitement. "What if we hosted a reunion for all the artists and writers who have been part of our journey?" The idea resonated with me immediately. That sounds wonderful. It would be a chance to reconnect, share stories, and celebrate how far we've come. We set to work planning the reunion, reaching out to past participants, and organizing a weekend of workshops, performances, and shared meals. The response was overwhelmingly positive, and soon our retreat was buzzing with anticipation. As old friends and new arrivals gathered in our garden, the atmosphere was electric with laughter and conversation. Artists shared their latest projects, writers read excerpts from their work, and musicians filled the air with music. During a break in the festivities, Sarah and I took a moment to reflect on the journey that had brought us here. "It's incredible to see how this place has grown and evolved," Sarah said, her eyes shining with pride. I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "And it's all thanks to the incredible people who have been part of our community." That evening, as we sat around a bonfire under the starlit sky, we shared stories and memories late into the night. The reunion felt like a celebration of everything we had accomplished together, a testament to the power of creativity and connection. As the weekend drew to a close, Sarah and I stood before our friends and community, feeling a profound sense of love and gratitude. "Thank you all for being part of our journey," I began, my voice filled with emotion. "You've brought so much joy, inspiration, and meaning into our lives." Sarah took my hand, her eyes shining with tears of happiness. "We started this journey with a dream, and together we've turned it into something truly extraordinary." May our creative spirits continue to thrive, and may our bonds of friendship and community grow ever stronger. The applause that followed was thunderous, and as we looked out at the faces of those we had come to love and cherish, I knew that we had come full circle. Our journey had been one of growth, resilience, and boundless creativity, and it was all the richer for the connections we had forged along the way. In the years that followed, our retreat continued to be a sanctuary for artists and writers, a place where dreams were nurtured and possibilities were endless. As Sarah and I watched the sunset over the horizon, hand in hand, I knew that our story was far from over. But for now, in this moment of togetherness and celebration, I felt a deep sense of contentment. We had come home, not just to our retreat, but to ourselves and to each other. As we embraced the future, I knew that whatever adventures lay ahead, we would face them with love, creativity, and the unwavering support of our community. Our journey had come full circle, but our hearts were open to whatever the next chapter would bring. And as we looked ahead to the unknown, I knew that with Sarah by my side, anything was possible. Years turned into decades, and our retreat center continued to thrive, becoming a beacon of creativity and inspiration for generations of artists and writers. Sarah and I watched with pride as our vision continued to impact lives and shape the future of the creative community. As we grew older, we passed the torch to a new generation of leaders, knowing that our legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of those who had been touched by our work. Our retreat became a place of pilgrimage for artists and writers from around the world, drawn by the promise of a supportive environment and the opportunity to connect with kindred spirits. One spring afternoon, as Sarah and I sat on the porch watching the sun dip below the horizon, we reflected on the journey that had brought us here. "It's hard to believe how far we've come," Sarah said softly, her hand in mine. I nodded, feeling a deep sense of gratitude. "But I'm grateful for every moment, every challenge, and every triumph. Our journey has been richer because we've shared it together." Sarah smiled, her eyes twinkling with memories. "And our community has become like family to us. I never imagined we would touch so many lives." As the years passed, our retreat center expanded even further, offering residencies, workshops, and mentorship programs to artists of all ages and backgrounds. Our foundation continued to support emerging talent, providing grants and opportunities for those who needed it most. One day, as we walked through the garden, a young artist approached us, her eyes bright with excitement. "Thank you," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "This place has changed my life. I don't know where I would be without it." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she embraced the young artist. "You are why we do what we do," she said softly, "to provide a space where creativity can flourish and dreams can take flight." As we watched the young artist disappear into the studio, I felt a profound sense of pride. Our journey had been filled with challenges and obstacles, but it had also been filled with moments of pure magic, moments like this, where we knew we were making a difference. As the years went by, Sarah and I continued to cherish each moment together, knowing that our time on this earth was precious. We traveled, we laughed, we created, and we loved, savoring every moment of our shared journey. And as we stood together, watching the sun set on another day, I knew that our legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of those we had touched. Our retreat center would continue to be a place of refuge and renewal for artists and writers for generations to come. Our journey had been one of love, creativity, and community. As we faced the unknown of the future, we did so with open hearts and a deep sense of gratitude for the life we had lived together. As the stars twinkled overhead, Sarah took my hand, and together we walked back to our home, knowing that our story would live on in the hearts of all who had been part of our journey. For us, it was the beginning of a new chapter, but for our retreat center and the countless artists and writers it would continue to inspire, it was just another chapter in a story that would never end. Chapter 12. Passing the Torch. As the years went by, Sarah and I continued to cherish every moment together, but we couldn't ignore the passage of time. We knew that it was time to begin thinking about the future of our retreat center and our legacy. One crisp autumn morning, we sat in our cozy study, surrounded by the memories of a lifetime. "Sarah, we need to talk about what comes next," I began, my voice tinged with emotion. Sarah nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "I know. It's time to start thinking about passing the torch to the next generation." The idea was daunting, but we knew it was necessary. We had spent decades building our retreat center and foundation, and it was time to ensure that they would continue to thrive long after we were gone. Together, we began the process of finding someone who shared our vision and values, someone who could carry our legacy forward with the same passion and dedication. After months of searching and interviews, we found the perfect candidate, a young artist named Mia, whose passion for creativity and community mirrored our own. Mia was eager to take on the responsibility, and we knew that our retreat center would be in good hands with her at the helm. As we prepared to officially pass the torch to Mia, we invited our community to join us for a special ceremony. Friends, family, and past participants gathered in our garden, surrounded by the beauty and tranquility of nature. With tears in our eyes and hearts full of gratitude, Sarah and I stood before the crowd, ready to announce the next chapter of our journey. "It's been an incredible journey," Sarah began, her voice steady despite the emotion. "But now it's time for us to pass the torch to the next generation." I nodded, feeling a lump form in my throat. "We are confident that Mia will carry on our legacy with the same love and dedication that we have." Mia stepped forward, her eyes shining with determination. "I am honored to take on this responsibility," she said, "and I promise to honor the vision and values that Robert and Sarah have built this retreat center upon." As we handed over the keys to Mia, a sense of peace washed over me. Our legacy was in good hands, and I knew that our journey had come full circle. In the years that followed, we watched with pride as Mia continued to nurture our retreat center and foundation, expanding its reach and impact even further. As Sarah and I grew older, we took comfort in knowing that our life's work would continue to inspire and support generations of artists and writers to come. As we sat together on our porch, watching the sunset on another day, I took Sarah's hand in mine, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the life we had lived together. Our journey had been one of love, creativity, and community, and as we embraced the twilight years of our lives, we knew that our legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of all who had been part of our journey. For us, it was the end of one chapter, but for our retreat center and the countless artists and writers, it would continue to inspire. It was just the beginning of a new story, a story that would carry on long after we were gone. As Sarah and I settled into the quieter rhythm of our twilight years, we found solace in the knowledge that our legacy was secure in Mia's capable hands. But our love for creativity and community continued to burn brightly, and we remained active participants in the life of our retreat center. One crisp spring morning, as the flowers began to bloom and the birds sang in the garden, Sarah approached me with a mischievous glint in her eye. "Robert, I have an idea," she said, her voice alive with excitement. I smiled, knowing that her ideas were always worth listening to. "What is it, my love?" "What if we started a new project together, a creative collaboration that brings together artists and writers from all walks of life?" she suggested. The idea sparked something within me. "I love it. It would be a way to continue fostering creativity and connection, even as we grow older." With renewed energy, we set to work planning our new project, a collaborative art and literature anthology that would showcase the diverse talents of our community. We reached out to artists, writers, poets, and photographers, inviting them to contribute their work to the anthology. The response was overwhelming, and soon we had a wealth of submissions that captured the beauty and complexity of the human experience. As we curated the pieces and worked with contributors to refine their work, I felt a sense of joy and fulfillment. Our retreat center had always been a place of transformation and inspiration, and this project was a natural extension of that mission. When the anthology was finally complete, we held a special launch event at our retreat center, inviting contributors and supporters to join us for an evening of readings, art exhibits, and celebration. As we stood before the crowd, Sarah and I felt a deep sense of pride. "This anthology is a testament to the power of creativity and community," I began, my voice filled with emotion. It's a reflection of the diverse voices and experiences that make our retreat center so special. Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with pride. And it's a reminder that no matter where life takes us, the circle of creativity continues. It's a journey we all share, and it's a journey worth celebrating. The launch event was a resounding success, with the anthology receiving praise from critics and readers alike. But more than that, it brought our community closer together, reaffirming the bonds of friendship and creativity that had been forged over the years. In the months and years that followed, our anthology continued to inspire and uplift, touching the hearts of readers around the world. And as Sarah and I watched the sunset on another day, I knew that our journey was far from over. Our retreat center had become more than just a place. It was a home for creativity, a sanctuary for the soul, and a testament to the power of love and community. As we embraced the future, hand in hand, I knew that our story would continue to unfold, filled with new adventures, new challenges, and endless opportunities for creativity and connection. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes fixed on the horizon, we embarked on the next chapter of our journey, knowing that the circle of creativity would continue to spin, weaving its magic into the lives of all who dared to dream. As the years passed, Sarah and I continued to find joy and fulfillment in our work at the retreat center. But as our bodies grew older and our energy waned, we knew that it was time to bid farewell to the place that had been our home for so long. One autumn morning, with the leaves turning gold and red, we gathered our community together for a special announcement. Friends, family, and past participants filled the garden, their faces reflecting a mixture of anticipation and sadness. Sarah and I stood before them hand in hand, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for the love and support that had surrounded us throughout the years. "We have something important to share with all of you," I began, my voice steady despite the emotion. Sarah squeezed my hand, her eyes shining with tears. "After much consideration, we have decided that it's time for us to step down as directors of the retreat center." A hush fell over the crowd as our words sank in, but before anyone could react, Sarah continued, her voice filled with warmth and reassurance. "But this is not the end, it's simply a new beginning." We explained our decision to retire and pass the torch to Mia, who had proven herself to be a capable and passionate leader. The announcement was met with a mixture of sadness and understanding, but our community rallied around us, offering words of gratitude and support. As we prepared to say goodbye to our beloved retreat center, we were overwhelmed by the outpouring of love and appreciation from those who had been part of our journey. Artists, writers, musicians, all came forward to express their gratitude for the impact we had made on their lives. On our final day at the retreat center, as the sun dipped below the horizon, we gathered one last time in the garden, surrounded by the beauty and tranquility that had been our home for so long. With tears in our eyes and hearts full of gratitude, Sarah and I addressed our community for the last time. "Thank you," I began, my voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for sharing this journey with us, for your creativity, your friendship, and your love." Sarah nodded, her voice steady despite the tears. "We may be leaving this place, but our memories and our love will remain forever." As we said our final farewells and drove away from the retreat center for the last time, I felt a mixture of sadness and anticipation. Our journey here had come to an end, but a new adventure awaited us. In the years that followed, Sarah and I settled into a quiet life, cherishing each moment together and reflecting on the incredible journey we had shared. Our retreat center continued to thrive under Mia's leadership, carrying on the legacy we had built together. And as we looked back on our lives, we knew that our greatest achievement was not the retreat center itself, but the community we had created. A community bound together by love, creativity, and the shared belief that anything is possible when we support one another. Our story may have ended at the retreat center, but the spirit of creativity and connection that we had fostered would live on forever in the hearts and minds of all who had been part of our journey. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes fixed on the future, we embrace the next chapter of our lives, knowing that wherever it may lead, our love and our legacy would endure. As the years went by, Sarah and I settled into a quiet life together, surrounded by memories of our time at the retreat center. We spent our days writing, painting, and enjoying the simple pleasures of life. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, sipping tea and watching the flames dance, Sarah turned to me with a thoughtful expression. "Robert, do you ever think about our journey? The ups and downs, the challenges and triumphs?" I smiled, knowing exactly what she meant. All the time. Our journey at the retreat center was the most extraordinary adventure of our lives. Sarah nodded, her eyes distant as she reminisced. "It's hard to believe how much we've accomplished together. From the early days of building our dream to the bustling community it became, it's been quite a ride." I reached for her hand, feeling a surge of gratitude for the life we had shared. "And it's all thanks to you, Sarah. You've been my rock, my inspiration, and my greatest love." Tears welled up in Sarah's eyes as she leaned in to kiss me. "And you've been mine, Robert. Together we've created something truly magical." As we sat together in the quiet warmth of our home, surrounded by the memories of a lifetime, I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the journey we had shared. Our retreat center had been more than just a place. It had been a home, a sanctuary, and a testament to the power of love and creativity. In the years that followed our retirement, we continued to stay connected with our community, attending events, workshops, and performances whenever we could. The bonds we had forged with our fellow artists and writers remained strong, even as our lives took on a slower pace. And as we watched the sun set on another day, I knew that our journey was far from over. We may have left the retreat center behind, but our love for creativity and community continued to guide us forward. Our story had been one of love, resilience, and the transformative power of art. And as we reflected on our journey together, I knew that our legacy would live on in the hearts and minds of all who had been part of it. As Sarah and I settled into bed that night, hand in hand, I whispered a silent prayer of gratitude for the life we had shared and the love that had sustained us through it all. And as we drifted off to sleep, I knew that our story was far from over. For as long as there were stories to tell and dreams to chase, our journey would continue, filled with endless possibilities and the timeless magic of creativity and connection. As the years continued to pass, Sarah's health began to decline, and we knew that our time together was drawing to a close. We faced this new chapter with courage and grace, cherishing each moment as if it were our last. One spring morning, as the flowers bloomed outside our window, Sarah turned to me with a soft smile. "Robert, there's something I need to tell you," she said, her voice filled with love. I took her hand, feeling a lump form in my throat. "What is it, my dear?" "I want you to know how much I love you," she whispered, her eyes shining with tears, "and how grateful I am for the life we've shared together." Tears welled up in my eyes as I held her close. "I love you too, Sarah, more than words can express." In the days that followed, we spent our time together surrounded by family and friends, reminiscing about the adventures we had shared and the memories we had created. It was a bittersweet time, filled with laughter and tears, but also with a deep sense of peace and gratitude. As Sarah's health continued to decline, we knew that our time together was running out, but even in her final days, she remained a beacon of strength and love, inspiring all who knew her with her grace and resilience. On a warm summer evening, with the sun setting in a blaze of orange and gold, Sarah passed away peacefully in her sleep, surrounded by her loved ones. It was a moment of profound sadness, but also of deep gratitude for the life she had lived and the love she had shared. As we gathered to say our final farewells, I felt a sense of peace wash over me. Sarah may have left this world, but her spirit would live on in the hearts of all who had been touched by her love and kindness. In the days and weeks that followed, I found solace in the memories we had shared and in the knowledge that Sarah's love would always be with me, guiding me forward through life's challenges and triumphs. As I stood alone in our garden, surrounded by the beauty and tranquility that had been our home for so long, I whispered a final farewell to the love of my life. "Goodbye, Sarah. I said softly, my voice trembling with emotion. "Thank you for everything. You will always be in my heart." As I turned to walk back to our home, I knew that Sarah's spirit would live on in the retreat center she had helped build, in the community she had nurtured, and in the countless lives she had touched. And as I looked up at the stars twinkling overhead, I knew that our journey together was far from over. For as long as there were stories to tell and dreams to share, Sarah would always be by my side, guiding me forward with her love and her light. In the wake of Sarah's passing, the retreat center was filled with a profound sense of loss. But even in our grief, there was a shared determination to honor her memory and continue the work she had started. As the days turned into weeks, the community came together to pay tribute to Sarah's life and legacy. Artists, writers, and musicians all contributed their talents to create a memorial that captured the essence of who she was and the impact she had made. One bright autumn day, we gathered in the garden for a special ceremony to honor Sarah's memory. Friends, family, and past participants came from near and far to pay their respects and celebrate the life of a remarkable woman. I stood before the crowd, my heart heavy with grief but also filled with gratitude for the love and support that surrounded us. Sarah was more than just a co-founder of this retreat center, I began, my voice steady despite the emotion. She was the heart and soul of our community, a beacon of light and love who touched the lives of everyone she met. As I spoke, memories of our life together flooded my mind, the laughter, the tears, the shared dreams and aspirations. Sarah had been my partner, my confidant, and my inspiration, and her loss left a void that could never be filled. But as the ceremony continued, I felt a sense of comfort in knowing that Sarah's spirit lived on in the retreat center she had helped build, and in the hearts of all who had been touched by her love and kindness. Together, we planted a tree in Sarah's honor, a symbol of her enduring legacy and the roots she had planted in our hearts. And as we stood together, hand in hand, I knew that Sarah would always be with us, guiding us forward with her love and her light. In the days and weeks that followed, the retreat center continued to thrive, fueled by the memories of Sarah's passion and dedication. We established a scholarship in her name, providing opportunities for emerging artists and writers to pursue their dreams, a fitting tribute to a woman who had dedicated her life to nurturing creativity and community. As I walked through the garden, surrounded by the beauty and tranquility that had been our home for so long, I felt Sarah's presence all around me. Though she may have left this world, her spirit would live on in the hearts of all who had been touched by her love and her legacy. As the seasons turned and life continued to unfold, I knew that Sarah's memory would always be a guiding light, leading us forward with love, courage, and grace. And so, with hearts full of gratitude and eyes fixed on the future, we embraced the next chapter of our journey, knowing that Sarah's legacy would endure, inspiring generations to come.